Another day, another review, but today with two unlikely suspects. This is a Sony Linkbud S, and I'll be comparing it to the Technics az80. This comparison is not a random one. It's because upon using the two, I noticed that they're very close. I noticed that they're very close to one another, but very differently priced, and in fact they're not even considered as two earbuds that you can compare side by side, and I've never seen anybody comparing this, but today that's exactly what I'll do. Okay, so starting with how they look, obviously the Technics has a more premium-esque design, and the Sony, I'm not going to say it's not premium. I'm also not going to say that it has a premium design. It's actually perfectly in the middle of premium and budget, but I really wouldn't call this budget. It has a really clean, smooth design, smooth finish. And if you look at the buds themselves, they actually almost have the same. They have the same shape. I figured they look very identical. It's like this is almost like the baby, like its offspring. Because this is really fat and this is really small. And I don't know why the Technics had to be this fat. I'll explain myself very soon. Okay, so starting with well, first of all, the fit. As usual, the fit. Fit is always the first thing that I talk about, because it's the most important thing. Without a good fit, I'm not going to wear something. Like, I'll simply have it somewhere and sitting down doing absolutely nothing, taking up space. They both fit very well. The Technics, this little bump that you see at the bottom is not here for nothing. It's here for very good reasons, and it makes the entire bulk of the earbud almost irrelevant. Because with this bulbous detail, it will be very stable. However, you have to know how to wear it. Techniques are always like that. I got the 100 or so, which is very difficult to figure out, but once you figure it out, it becomes like second nature. The Sony also seems to have the same bump, but then it's a lot smaller, and then the tips focus more on going as deep, on going deep into the ears. And the way that this is designed, it makes it feel like almost an earplug, as if it wasn't even an earbud, like something that was designed specifically just to plug your ears for many hours without any discomfort whatsoever. The Technics, on the other hand, is not like an earplug. This is an earbud, and you have to know how to fit it. It's extremely comfortable, but again, you have to figure it out. And it's not trivial the way you might think it is. Anyway, for comfort, I'm gonna pick the Linkbud, not just because it's easier to figure it out, but also because when you do put it into your ears, it's very comfortable for many hours. The Technics comes second. It's quite fat. If you don't know how to wear it, you will feel all of this size. But if you know how to wear it, it will be almost as comfortable as the Linkbud, just a little bit bigger. And then there's the ambient mode. The ambient mode, very important. The Linkbud is one of the best ambient modes that I've ever heard. The only thing that I own that has a better ambient mode than this, or at least just as good, but actually better, is the Technics az80. But yeah, the ambient modes of the Linkbud is extremely good. It's the closest thing to not wearing anything, because it actually amplifies the sounds around you. It doesn't just give you an ambient mode, but it amplifies everything around you, and it is really good. The Technics is also very good, but just not as good as the Linkbud. And then there is the noise cancelling. The Linkbud is miles ahead of the Technics az80 in terms of noise cancelling. I don't know why all this. Anyway, this has elite noise cancelling, elite level noise cancelling, the Linkbud, and it's only the Linkbud S. So far, it doesn't sound like I'm talking about a mid-range earbud. It sounds like I'm talking about a high end, because it's beaten the Technics in every category thus far. And now the controls, yet again, the Linkbud, exceeded my expectations, because I really had very frustrating experience with the XM5, but that's because the touch panel of the XM5 has a small surface area. The Linkbud, this whole circular thing you see here, is a touch panel, so it's a lot easier to locate it. The volume control might just be a bit annoying, but it's still better because you have to repeatedly tap it. After you've tapped it the fourth time, every additional tap will take a volume up a notch. Meanwhile, the Technics az80 is not like that. This one, you just have to tap and then wait, tap, wait, tap, wait. So it's a lot more frustrating to use the volume control on this one. So for controls, I'm gonna pick the Linkbud, and then if you were doing sport, the Linkbud would also be the best earbud, because it feels like absolutely nothing, almost like nothing. So if you were doing, and it's also a lot more stable than the Technics. The Technics is also stable, but again, the Linkbud is just better. Now the part that matters the most is sound quality. I had to stop the video, but I'm back again. If I remember well, I was talking on the sound quality already. Remind me if I'm mistaken. And that's the topic that prompted me to start this video. The Linkbud is a pair that was released in 2022, and the Technics az80 was released in 2023. And it is senseless to me that something that was released in 2022 as a budget earbud is better sounding than something that was released in 2023 as a high-end earbud. And the Technics az80 cost 50% more than the Sony Linkbud, and it also has a bigger driver. And I'm not entirely sure about the size of the driver, the precise size. But all I know, I mean, look at all this. You think, I mean, they must have been able to fit so much more into the Technics, because if the Technics was older than the Linkbud, then you could say that, well, maybe in those days they just didn't have the technology to put things in a much smaller scale. It's just a lot of bulk for no reason that I can think of, because the Linkbud is a lot smaller. But in terms of sound quality, the Linkbud is actually better than the Technics. And this is not something that I'm just saying because I simply want to talk, but it's something that baffled me when I discovered it. Because I went to I first got the Linkbud and I didn't really know what to think of it. The EQ was really flat. I had to go to the EQ and tweak it to my taste. And once I did that, now it really requires a lot of tweaking, because if you do not do that, then you might not get the best sound out of it, as is with many other earbuds. But once I tweaked it to my taste, you have to be willing to take the EQ below the graph, below the neutral point of the graph, in order to get the best result. Don't only go above the graph, above the neutral point. So once I EQ'd it to my taste, I found that, first of all, the Linkbud S, it has better mid-range than the az80. Right, it has a better mid-range, and it also has much more bass. Like there's a bigger bass on this very small thing. There is a bigger bass than you find on the az80. It really doesn't look like it, but that's what you get. You get a bigger bass. It sounds more like a barrel, like a bass coming from a barrel, and it's louder. It has more depth. Meanwhile, the az80 is more subtle, and I think it can sometimes sound a bit like a little bit cleaner, if I can even say, if I can even call it that. But I wouldn't call it cleaner. It can sound just a little more gentle than the Linkbud, but I much prefer the Linkbud. It also has a wider soundstage. With the EQ that I have, I'll try to show it on the screen. With the EQ I have a wider soundstage, because the bass is more it has a long arm. It's kind of further away from your ears. But and then the highs on the Linkbud are adequate. Adequate meaning they, you won't. I don't ever feel that I should have more. Sometimes they can come out, depending on the song you play, they could come out a little bit darker than the az80. Well, but definitely darker. On the az80, I only use the dynamic EQ, and what I found very annoying about the az80 is that no matter how you EQ it, you could never get, you can never replicate the EQ the preset EQ, or the EQ presets that come default with the earbuds. They've made it that they've made it in such a way that you just cannot replicate it. You cannot get the same sound with your own EQ. The az80 just won't be bass heavy. It will be very, very, very simple. It will simply be boring, and it doesn't make sense how something so big can't squeeze out more sound. It feels that all their focus went on the highs, so it just sounds really bright all the time, and it even sounds a bit narrow compared to the Linkbud. The mid-range sounds quite narrow compared to the Linkbud, but it's not narrow, on its own. What I found is that the the az80 can be easier to listen to due to the lighter sound that it has. So it has treble, and it has a range in the treble. The sound is a bit light, and you could, I think so. If you are just playing like background music, if you just want to have like background music playing, I think the az80 could do a slightly better job than the Linkbud, because with the Linkbud you get more weight in the sound, which if you, like, let's say you're running, you have a very intense long distance run and you're really tired, I think I would enjoy the az80 more than the Linkbud, simply because with running comes fatigue, and with fatigue, it becomes like sensitivity, like you become more sensitive to like bass and everything that's simply that is weighty, that feels heavy, because sound feels heavy on your ears when you're very tired. And you'll notice that if you run very long distances in an intense workout. But then again, you have the ability to change the EQ. But that's why I actually like the that's the reason why I actually like the Linkbud Fit, because the Linkbud Fit has it has different listening modes, like cafe and concert, cinema. And when you choose those listening modes, it really takes away the bass and gives you a more ambient sound. Anyway, so the Linkbud, now, to make, without any further ado, is it necessary to get the az80 when you can get the Linkbud? Simply, no, it's not. It's actually kind of dumb to get the az80 when you can actually get the Linkbud. I know this is not what YouTube wants you to know. YouTube wants you to think that the az80 is this legendary piece of technology, but it really isn't. The Linkbud is actually better. For me, I think it's very shocking how Sony managed to make the Linkbud, and it's not a high-end earbud. It's not Sony's flagship, but how they made it like a flagship. Of course, the sound quality is not comparable to flagship earbuds like the PI8 and the az100, but but it's pretty close. It depends on where you are, where you're listening. I think it's pretty close. I think I'll do another comparison sometime soon with other high-end earbuds. But the Linkbud is one of those earbuds that when you own, you don't need to own. It's one of the very few earbuds that eliminate the need to buy something much more expensive. And Sony and these are, I think, are discontinued. I'm looking, not necessarily. I'm just talking nonsense. They're not discontinued, but they're simply not easy to find. They're not available. They're not widely available. And I wonder why. Maybe because it would slow down the sale of the XM5 earbud. I don't know, because these things are so good, and they're even better than the XM5. I never liked the XM5. I bought those twice, because the first time I thought that I was too, I thought that I didn't give it a chance, you know, to redeem itself. So then I bought it again, and it was even worse than than the first time I bought it. But the Linkbud changed my mind entirely about Sony earbuds, and it's from 2022. That's the part that shocks me the most.